sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. Welcome, everybody, and hello. This is
How do you stand out?
So what you need to do is be that person that's different and it's bigger than you think.
Rise from the ashes. That's why I like the
Appreciate you guys being here. If you're watching on the recording on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe. Today's a cool day, a special day. Over the course of the last few days, last week or so, and really last few months, you guys know, as we look at improving ourselves and building your business and building yourself and just improvement overall, I always end up talking about health and how important that side of it is, taking care of your body and really how it affects your day-to-day, what you do every day, how you interact with people, how you interact with, the tasks that you lay before you. And so as we've talked about that, Life Force is a new book by Tony Robbins that came out. And he talks in there a little bit about hormone optimization and hormone replacement therapy and everything. And so I decided I've got a guy who's kind of a rock star in that category to bring on. Now, a couple of years ago is when Stephen and I first met. His name's Stephen Schmidt. He's with Peak Performax. Now, Stephen and I met because I hit 40 and I went, shit, I need to, figure out where I'm at and what I need to do to get back on track. And so met Stephen through a mutual friend and started talking, and he's helped kind of reshape a plan for me, him and their medical doctor, and kind of help work things out. And since I got on the regimen, I've lost weight, I've added muscle mass, I sleep better, I feel better, I think more clearly. And so I said, I got to bring him on and introduce him to you guys. So with all of that said, Stephen, it's a pleasure to have you on, my man.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So first off, before I even ask a little bit about you, what is HRT and HOT? Like, what does that mean for people?
So once we get to a certain age, one of the things that we're going to experience is the imbalancing of our hormones. And that can come as, lack of sleep, lower libido, mood swings, unexpected weight gain. There's a lot of things that can be attributed to hormones and not being optimized. So the answer to your first question, HRT is just going to be hormone replacement therapy. Okay. And then the HOT, that's just going to be your hormone optimization. So if you go to your primary care doctor and you say, hey, doc, I am feeling, fatigue, low libido, and doc pulls some labs on you, they might show that you're in range. And so they'll come back and they'll be like, hey, you know what? You're in range. Everything's good. It might be something else. Just because you're in range doesn't mean you're in optimal range. And that's where a lot of things that we do come into play. Is what we want to do is we want to optimize those levels for you.
Right.
So with that being said, one of the like, you might have a male that has, is in the 200-300s, and their primary care doctor says, oh, you're in range.
So when you say the 200 to 300s, you're talking about your testosterone range inside the blood.
Total testosterone scores, okay. Yes. And I'm speaking specifically to males, but we can talk specifically, to the females as well, because
we will. We got a couple of women on for sure, and I know they're interested in all of it. So all right. So the doctor says, hey, it looks like you're in range, right? So what you're saying essentially is that just being in range, according to what the doctor is giving you, doesn't necessarily mean it's in range for you.
Well, and a lot of the times that they'll look at that and they'll say you're in range because hormones are something that's not taught in medical school. So, you're, one of your, specialties, your OBGYNs, they might get a little bit of hormone training, but it's not going to be a lot. So, so most of the doctors don't understand it. And so when a doctor doesn't understand something, typically what they're going to say is, no, this is bad for you, or they're going to refer you to a specialist. So if it's anything metabolic, such as your thyroid, they're automatically going to refer you to an endocrinologist. Endocrinologists, if they don't know what to do, they're going to say, nope, you're still in range, blah, blah, blah. And
you're in range, you're fine. And they, their range is 300 million Americans or however many billion people, and they go, well, here's our as general as we can get, right?
Exactly. And so what we like to do, and our practitioners, we kind of take a deep dive with the labs that we do. So we're going to look at all your sex hormones. We're going to look at all your metabolic hormones. We're going to, we're going to take a deeper dive into your CBC, your differential, to make sure that we're looking at the entire picture. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come up, our providers are going to come up with a protocol that's going to best suit your needs and optimize you for that. And then the medications will be sent to you directly from one of our compounding pharmacies. And the reason they come from a compounding pharmacy is because those medications are going to be made specifically for that patient.
Okay. So there's a number of different things that we're going to break down there. Talking about labs, talking about, what a compound pharmacy is, how that works, and what optimization and all this kind of stuff is. And like Carrie's saying, sometimes they're getting a range, but that range includes sick people, it includes, people that are well. It's kind of like, the average woman is 5'4". Well, what if you're 5'6", right? I'm not, I'm 6'1", and when they look at weight and everything else, they're like, oh, you're obese. And I'm like, well, maybe not. Let's look at other stuff, because they just go by body mass index, and it's these weird things. So you guys are doing a deeper dive, but how did you get into this whole thing anyway yourself? How did you go, you know what, I want to get into this world of hormones?
So whenever I started on with a compounding pharmacy,
which is what's a compounding pharmacy?
Okay. So take, for instance, your CVS, your Walgreens. Those are going to be your big box pharmacies. They're going to deal specifically in like manufactured products. So if they're going to have like your brand name Viagra, they're going to have, your generic. So anything that's manufactured by big pharma is what they're going to do. Now, years and years and years ago, that before CVS and Walgreens even existed, you had your compounding pharmacies, and these compounding pharmacists would actually make those medications. So instead of being made, in a factory and punched out and stamped and boom, boom, boom.
So instead of like a bulk, box of 1,000 pills that they get in, these guys are taking, they get the results that the doctor says, hey, we need X mixed up in this way. And then they come in and do it that particular way.
Correct. So, and a lot of the times too, like if you go and your doctor prescribes some type of estrogen or progestin for, a female for, perimenopausal or postmenopausal symptoms, those are going to be synthetics. So what we're going to deal with is the bioidentical aspect of it. And what they'll do is we'll do like a combination of, for a female, if they're low in estrogen, we'll do a combination of E2, E3 at, either an 80-20%, variation, or a 50-50 variation.
It is a synthetic, but it's the bioequivalent, right?
No, what we're looking at is ours is the majority of ours is all going to be bioidentical. So
what does
females,
bioidentical mean?
It's going to be it's not going to be synthetic. It's going to be plant-based. It's going to be yam-based. Okay. So it's as close to what your body makes as you can possibly get to. All right. Okay. One of the problems that they've had in the past with, a lot of the cancers and things, distributing it to the estrogen or the synthetic estrogens, they had a lot of females on 15, 20 years ago, and they had a lot of issues with it, was because they were using a horse estrogen. Okay. So what they had done is they had come up with, a way of synthesizing this, breaking down this horse estrogen in order to get it. And it was close, but whenever it hit that female receptor in the body, it doesn't merge right. And so that causes issues. Now, whenever the bioidentical hits it, it's as, and that's why they call it bioidentical, is because it's pretty much as identical to what your natural body would make as possible.
So then, I mean, that's part of starting to answer, I'm sure one of the biggest questions that you get is, well, all you're doing is giving people, men and women, you're just giving them PEDs, you're just giving them steroids, you're juicing them up. What's the difference in that and like and we'll kind of get into, the safety and the factors that a lot of people are kind of scared of. But what's the difference in that kind of attitude and thinking about the big muscle heads, men and women, like the women saying, well, I don't want to look like the East Germans in the 80s, right?
Right.
And the guys going, well, I'm not looking to, roid out and start beating the walls and kicking my dogs and stuff. Like, what's the difference in that and, what you're doing with HRT and HOT now?
So what we do is, and so our main, demographic of patients is going to be, early 40s and up. So as far as the bodybuilder mentality, cycling on, cycling off, high doses, going up to superhuman levels, that's just not something that we get involved in. What we're going to do is we're going to bring you up and keep you at a level that's a steady state that falls in line with where those optimal numbers might be.
And whatever is optimum for me. So like, I don't have to worry about my, getting on HGH and my brow turning into like caveman style.
No. And we're not gonna take you up. And as far as the females too, I mean, we're gonna make sure we keep you at that specific level. And that's all done through lab work. So what we will do is, initially we get lab work, we see where we're lacking. Then we assign a protocol, and then a few months later, we're going to go ahead and pull some more labs to determine if we have everything dialed in.
And that was a process that I thought was pretty cool. So like when I did it, you go in and you do blood work, and then that blood work's much more complete than, when I've done my like life insurance. Like I just did life insurance again just a couple of weeks ago and got the results back, and it's less than what I got when we did our labs. And then after that, though, you do a telemed conference, right, with a medical doctor. So you've got a doctor on staff, like she runs, I'm assuming it's still her, right? Runs Peak Perform Max. And, having that conversation, it was, she's asking questions about how I'm living my life, how I'm feeling, taking that combined with the labs and kind of putting the two together and going, okay, here's where then the numbers, you may be in range, but your numbers and what you're telling me together say that you need X, right?
That's correct. And we have two doctors on staff now. We have a couple of nurse practitioners, and so it just kind of depends on, some people, a lot of females, they like to speak with a female, there's certain things. And so, or male, it just depends. So we're going to link them up with, what's going to be the best fit for them as well. Yeah. But all of them are going to have, a tremendous amount of experience in in hormone replacement, and also with hormone optimization, which is very, that's what we look for.
So what are some of the things when you're looking at, and guys, I'll drop and so I should have thrown in the disclaimer at the beginning. Obviously, I am not a licensed doctor. Steven's got them on staff with the Peak Perform Max, so they've got everything the way they need to be able to do what they're doing. It's not, he's not running it out of his garage or some lab in a cave somewhere. So everything's done appropriately and regulated. If you do want to talk with them, I'll put the link in and I'll give it to you later. But so what are some of the things, you mentioned, so we have testosterone, we have estrogen, you've mentioned thyroid. Like if I'm sitting here and I'm 40 and up, and I know most of the people on the call kind of fit that category. If I'm in that range, what are some common things where I go, maybe I'm a little out of whack?
Okay. So let's say that you have, so let's first start talking about the metabolic hormones real quick. Metabolics are going to be your thyroid. And okay. So sorry about that.
You're back.
Yeah. The metabolics are going to be attributed to your thyroid. So if somebody goes to their primary care and they talk to their primary care and they say, you know what, I'm having anxiety. I've got this unexplained weight gain. I'm not doing anything different. My diet's still the same. I'm noticing that my hair is thinning. My nail beds are thinning. It's just, these are some issues. Mainly, probably 80% of the time, doc's going to be like, oh, okay, let's write you for a benzo. That's not really the case. That's when we start to take a deeper dive at what the thyroid looks like, because every single one of those symptoms that I just mentioned has a direct correlation with hypothyroidism. And whenever you say hypothyroidism,
what is hypothyroidism?
That means your thyroid is underactive. That means, so basically your body creates T4 and then it converts it into T3. T3 is what gives us our usable energy, maintains our metabolism. So whenever and I also need to tell you, I'm not a medical professional. I can't diagnose or prescribe. I'm just telling you from the experience that I've had. So
so you're sharing the experience and getting information out, the final diagnostic. So like we're giving, and most of the stuff that we end up talking about today, guys, you can find online as parameters. And so what we're trying to do is just kind of disseminate the information. If you feel like you need to talk to a professional, by all means do. There's the link for Peak. But if you've got somebody else, like, we just want you guys to optimize your health. So kind of get our disclaimer.
So,
and we'll.
So what we do is we'll look at those numbers, and I attend a lot of conferences. In fact, I was at a wellness and hormone replacement conference last weekend called AMMG, which is for anti-aging medicine. But what we will look at is, I'm going to look at, and our practitioners are going to look at your labs, and we want to see where that T3 free is standing. So optimal range for T3 free is between 3.7 and 4.2. Now, what most of the Western docs are going to look at is they're just going to look at your TSH. If your TSH is in line, they're going to be like, that's fine. Most of them don't take it.
TSH stands for
thyroid stimulating hormone. So,
okay.
Yeah. And so that's just going to be like the basic test that they're going to look at. Now, whenever, and that's why I always say we take a little bit of a deeper dive whenever it comes to that. And I can tell you that, I've had, after speaking with several, of our patients after they've had their consult with doc, after they've been put on their thyroid, literally have called me up and said, wow, I felt 100% different after the first day of taking this. And it's true, because the medication works very quickly. It's it's a desiccated thyroid. It's natural. It's a combination of T3 and T4. That's typically what we use. And so, that's just one of the aspects that we'll look at.
Well, like
now, go ahead.
Sierra, my fiance's got, she felt like the anxiety that she has, like she felt like that leveled out some with that, with a combination of the other things that were going on, getting everything else in balance too. So, thyroid is something where a lot of people, I think, hear, well, my thyroid's bad, and they think I've got to go to the doctor. I've got to get on, like you said, they just immediately prescribe whatever. Whereas sometimes it could just be, a little bit of a function could change just their daily, how they feel and how they're sleeping and everything then.
100%. And then what we need to do is, typically from the age of 35 to 45, that's going to be kind of your perimenopausal stage for a lot of females. So you're going to see mood swings. You're going to see weight gain, lack of libido. So sex drive is just going to, from time to time tank. And the two most common things is low libido, and and the other complaint is I just don't sleep. My sleep patterns are horrible. So is that then due to estrogen or thyroid, or a combination? No, that's going to be due to low levels of testosterone and low levels of progesterone.
Okay.
So those are the two things that we see the biggest on whenever it comes to the perimenopausal stage.
So for women, how often do you get women saying, well, I don't want to take testosterone. I shouldn't be taking any testosterone. I'm a woman. What do you mean?
Well, then that's when we have to explain as far as the sex hormones, just like, whenever I tell men, we have estrogen in our body, they're like, whoa, hold on a second. I'm
a man.
Not my body.
The voice drops an octave when they start talking.
Right. But as far as females, yes, females have testosterone. It helps as far as bone health. I mean, there's so many positives to that, and it's something that's necessary. You've got 3 different types of estrogen. You've got estrone, estriol, estradiol. You've got your progesterone. So you have multiple hormones, multiple sex hormones in your body. And so it's not that you can just be like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to balance this one. It's kind of like going to the symphony and listening to the orchestra play, except your strings and your woodwinds are out of tune. It's not going to sound the same as if everything was in balance and in line. And so that's what we're trying to do, is create that harmony so that everything evens out and we start to feel the way that we did, 15, 20 years ago.
I like that metaphor. Yeah. I mean, the strings are playing a song, but it's the wrong song.
Exactly.
So they might be in range. So, okay. So Forrest is asking, what about a person with extraordinarily high metabolism?
High metabolism. Okay. So like I said, everything is going to be based off of the lab work. So at that point, I need to see why, somebody might have an extremely high metabolism. Now, most people that have I have a high metabolism. Most people that have high metabolisms are like, I can eat anything that I want. I feel amazing. I still have my 6-pack, and so, that's typically high metabolism.
Life is rough at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now if that person is looking to gain weight or something in that area, then we can discuss and see kind of where they're standing as far as what they might be, lacking in, what's their caloric intake. So we're going to talk to them in regards to everything. And I just saw something pop up in regard to hot flashes.
Yeah, so Janine is asking, hot flashes and night sweats can be prominent in females. What would you suggest to help reduce or eliminate?
Okay, so whenever I have a female that comes and the first thing she says is, I'm having hot flashes, that's when the one thing that we're going to look at on that is we're going to be adding estrogen to their protocol. So typically whenever a female goes to their OB and they say, hey, I'm having hot flashes at night, the first thing your OB is typically going to put them on is going to be birth control again. The reason that they're going to do that is because birth control is a low dose of estrogen. So it's also
with all sorts of other shit mixed in, right?
It's a synthetic. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put them on like a bias cream. Bias is going to be a combination of E2, E3, which is your estriol and your estradiol, and we'll do a certain percentage to do that. Now,
but that's going to be based on, so for a guy and then for maybe some of these ladies that haven't done birth control in a while, I'm guessing birth control for the most part is kind of like it's one dose for the most part, right? And what you're doing is having a protocol where you've done the lab work and you go, here's where you're at, here's how much you need, right? But it's not just some synthetic, like you said, it's bioidentical, I think is what you said, right? Yeah.
And so we're going to look at that, and it's going to come in a transdermal cream, and they're going to apply the cream, to their inner thigh or their inner arm, and it's going to be something that they'll pretty much do daily, depending on the dose. Sometimes, it just depends on their lab work, whether or not we do it, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 3 days a week. It's all going to be based off of the labs whenever it comes to that. But, and that also attributes because, a lot of the times too, the females will say, yes, I'm having night sweats, but then again, I'm having vaginal dryness. So, that's when we'll look at, adding a little bit more E3 to the combination, because E3 is going to help as far as vaginal dryness, because then you have, the females that complain of, painful intercourse, and that's because of a lot of that. We can also have it inserted. The creams can be inserted vaginally. There's a lot of things that we can look at when it comes to that. Now, once we introduce estrogen into the body, you always want to. You're going to have the progesterone go along with it, because you never want that estrogen to be unopposed. And so
what does progesterone do then?
Progesterone is kind of your balancing hormone, but it's going to help as far as sleep patterns are concerned, and really as far as those. So that's where you're really gonna. No, we're not in Canada, unfortunately. Apologize. But
you can find someone there that'll do a lot.
Yeah,
of stuff.
You can. I'm sure you can find somebody there.
Well, so one of the biggest issues that a lot of women have, and then we'll talk about some guys stuff too. But is like when you get on birth control, it like they always talk about screwing up everything. So like weight gain or all sorts of other stuff. What's the difference in side effects, or what can someone expect with kind of the protocol that's being done based on lab work with like proper HRT or HOT versus, oh, you're having hot flashes, here's some birth control? Like what kind of difference could I expect in that regard?
Okay, so basically it's going to be, we're going to be able to kind of, and one of my medical directors loves to say, what we're going to do is we're going to give you the tools, and I'm going to let you go ahead and see what works best. So if you want to do a couple extra clicks as far as your testosterone to see what it's like to run a little bit higher as far as your testosterone levels, great. As a transdermal, the next day you're going to be back to, your steady state.
And when he's talking about guys with clicks, like there's the cream comes in a container and you click out almost like a deodorant. It's where you turn it at the bottom and it raises up a little bit. It's almost that same kind of thing. And then you put it on. So like my fiance's got some, so that's the only reason I know. So where he says, add a click or two. But again, this is, it allows you to kind of feel what's working. And you have one of the reasons that I love working with you, Stephen, and Peak and everything, and professionals in that category, is because it's like, hey, we want to work with you to figure out what works best to get you here, as opposed to just, I'm going to write you a prescription, leave me alone, come back in 30 days or come back in 60 days or whatever, right? So it's kind of trying to feel out where we can get you to that optimum level, right? So anyway, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are some of the, and I will, we'll have females too that, we'll take care of the hot flashes, but then I'll get a phone call and they'll be like, hold on a second, I'm experiencing breakthrough bleeding. And that is something that women absolutely, they're in their 50s and they're like, no, don't want to do this again. And that's just a matter of backing down one click. One click's going to be a quarter gram, and that's going to correct those. So there's the beauty of this is, as far as, like I said, we give you the tools in the toolbox, but everybody has lived in their own body long enough that they're going to be able to see what works best for them. So, even though, now we don't want you playing around with the estrogen, because that's just something that, we can go, we can have a discussion about that, but, you play around with the testosterone going up and down with that. Also with the progesterone, and see what works best on that. But, there's several medications that you don't want to do that with.
So how does balancing out this stuff, how does it play into, especially when you're getting into, like you mentioned your 40 and up is kind of your sweet spot. You're getting into your 40s, you're getting into your 50s, and you mentioned like bone density or, muscle or weight loss or other things. Like, how does that play in? And then from there, I've got some other questions kind of about how it affects just our thinking and mood and stuff.
It all affects it in a very positive manner, because like when the female body's depleted of estrogen, females have an estrogen receptor in every organ in their body. So if that's depleted and it's not getting that, it's going to accelerate the aging process. So that's why it's so important to balance it, because you might see somebody that goes through menopause. You might have friends that have gone through menopause, and it looks I mean, and in a matter of, a few years, they look like they have aged tremendously.
So without it being imbalanced, you get older fast. Does the same thing happen with guys, or why is there always that joke about like how, men age and differently? And is it because of the lack of estrogen, or what is it?
No, as far as and men, no. I mean, estrogen is important for men. I mean, one, the ability to, estrogen in the body helps males facilitate erection. So, I mean, that's kind of a big thing for us. So, we don't want to suppress that too much. And then as far as, just the overall balancing of the hormones, yeah, it does definitely play an issue with how you age.
Right.
I think, I'll be 50 in the next like month and a half, and I don't feel like I'm 50, and so it does definitely play a role. And, there's also peptides that we can look at that lengthen telomeres. So it's not just based on our sex hormones, or just our metabolic hormones. It's based off of a combination of everything. Somebody just said, how much does exercise play a role in it? Yeah. This is a lifestyle commitment. So it's going to be a combination of, hey, are we going to eat right? Because I'll have, people call me up and they'll be like, hey, I'm working out, I'm taking this medication, but I'm not losing any weight. Okay, what's your diet? Well, I eat Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, I eat McDonald's for lunch, and Burger King for dinner. Well, you know what? I mean, let's just kind of put two and two together here. Yeah, it has to be. There's no magic pill that I'm going to be able to that any of the doctors are going to be able to prescribe that is going to make you look like an Adonis without putting in the work. One of the other things that you said in regards to the sorry, I lost my train of thought on that one. I apologize.
Okay. Well, so all right, so obviously, so we'll get Catalina will ask. I'm not forgetting the selenium question. So, but Patricia's talking about keeping hormones balanced. So let's say, even without HRT, how does exercise help stabilize your hormones in general? Right.
Right.
Is there an effect, and what effect does that have just with diet and exercise?
Okay. Can you do it with just diet and exercise?
Or to what extent? I think, and I've kind of learned personally, like, because when I started, I was working out, I was doing things, but there were you just get to a point where certain things aren't responding the same way. That said, how does exercise and diet, how does that affect things even without the HRT, and then with HRT? Like, what kind of effect? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going back to my analogy of the symphony and the orchestra, how it's not going to look the same. If your hormones and you're not balanced, you can go in the gym, you can diet as much as you want. You are not going to see the same results and you're not going to be able to meet those objectives because of the fact of you're fighting an uphill battle.
It's better than nothing, but it's not.
It's better than
the
nothing.
Same results.
Yeah.
So there are positive effects. We don't want to negate or lessen that at all. It is absolutely something that should be done, even if you're not going to do the HRT or HOT. You should be taking care of your diet. You should be drinking more water. You should be exercising and sleeping more. But if you 100%. Want optimize results, there's ways to optimize it, and that's kind of where the proper hormones come in.
Right.
Okay.
And and so and especially at the in the 40 range and everything, that perimenopausal, the males, decline in libido is going to be very evident, same as the decline of the libido in females. And then with the imbalance of hormones on that, the lack of sleeping, and we can say that, there's going to be irritability or mood swings that come into play. I don't know if there's any studies on it, but I would be very, very interested to see as far as what the divorce rate is based off of those timeframes when the hormones are unbalanced. because of the different mood swings, lack of sex drive.
Well, I think for men
along
and
those
women,
lines.
and I think it's something that as a
100%.
society around the world, we just don't pay attention to it, right? They always contribute or attribute things to finance. Great, okay, finance. But if my hormones are out of balance, I'm adding weight, I'm not sleeping, I get irritable. I'm not just irritable at home, I'm irritable at work, which affects my work, which affects my salary, which screws me up there. Then I get home and I'm even more pissed off because my thyroid is out of whack or my testosterone is low. And then I'm not sleeping and it just spirals. I don't think we pay attention to it, right? And, that's, what have you seen with like awareness as far as hormone and different hormone therapies over because how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for a hot minute. I started out on the, as far as the compounding pharmacy side. I've been doing that, 10 plus years. I started personally doing this when I was in my early 20s. So I've got a little bit of, just practical knowledge based off of that. And then we've had Peak up and running for about close to 3 years now. But the benefit that I have is that I work for a compounding pharmacy that specializes in this. So I also have about 70 different doctors around the nation that I deal with on a one-on-one basis that do pretty much the exact same thing that I do. And so I get to see everything and be able to stay very relevant in what the latest protocols are. I get to see what they're doing right, how they're doing it. And then at the same time, I get to see what they're doing wrong too, and so at that point, you can really start to see the benefits of something like that.
So how has this changed over the last decade then?
Well, the FDA, they're always, changing up as far as what peptides, are able to be done. They come in and they say, okay, you can't compound, testosterone cypionate, it has to be, a combination of something else. So it's a very fluid industry, but like I said, we always, we try and stay a couple steps ahead of everything, which we've been able to do. And so other than that, the core things, as far as the estrogens, the progesterone, the testosterone creams, and those have stayed very constant.
How do you feel like society in general has changed in their approach or their acceptance or their reluctance? Like, how has that changed over the last 10, 20 years?
I think people are much more receptive to it now because, we're always trying to find, especially here in South Florida, everybody is trying to find that fountain of youth. Everybody, they're fighting father time, wanting to, make sure that, don't go gently into that good night, so to speak. So, those are some of the things that I feel that once they've, educated themselves or have been educated on the process, understand, what it does for them, then at that point, I think that, you have somebody that is much more open and amicable to the therapy. But then again, you have some people that, I had a lady one day that, she was on it. She was doing great. She goes into a Whole Foods. She's in the vitamin section, picking out some vitamins, strikes up a conversation with another lady first time she met her, the lady goes, "Oh, hormones are horrible for you. You should get off that." So she stopped. She stopped her hormones. She called me 2 weeks later, a complete wreck. And she goes, "I don't know why I ever did that, but I need to get back." And I was like, okay,
You mean listening to someone else for advice on your life was a bad idea? Exactly. Looking at that, because a lot, we're all here and we've got digital businesses and we're getting things out with social media. How do you think the internet and websites and social media and Facebook and stuff, how has that affected, the clients that you deal with, the doctors, et cetera? How has that affected the industry?
So what I can say on that is there's good things because everything is immediate and at your fingertips. Now, what you have to take into consideration is not all the information is the best. and maybe it's not 100% factual and true and everything. And so a lot of it, you're going to get everybody else's opinions. So, they're like, we have different peptides. We have the epithylamine, which helps lengthen telomeres, that slows the aging process. We have all different types of things. And so whenever we, talk to somebody or a patient about peptides, I, fairly regularly will get a phone call and they'll be like, you know what, I got online and
so,
I can get this bottle for $25 online. Great. Let's go ahead and read the disclaimer on the third page that says this is for research and development only, should not be ingested by humans or animals. So, it all depends, because I mean, what you're doing is you're trying to put something in your body that's going to be as healthy for you as possible. So there's no cutting corners, and not that it's not that it's cost prohibitive, because it's really not. It's just that if you think that you're going to be able to get it for a song and dance, especially like the peptides, just be careful of what you might get.
I've looked at it because I've been on. I mean, we're a couple of years in now, and like I texted Stephen, when I was talking about coming on, I was like, oh, by the way, I need to re-up myself. But when I look at what I was normally spending on other supplements, like for me, to help me sleep, weight loss, trying to stay lean and doing other stuff, like it's replaced some of those for me. But at the same time, like for me, I sleep better, I feel better during the day, and I feel like mentally it took a little bit once I kind of got started, but I felt like mentally there was a little more clarity for me. And so for me, like that increased my productivity. My productivity increased my revenue. It helped me with my relationship. Not having the anxiety in a relationship, that was, it was worth the extra couple of bucks versus, trying to find something cheaper.
Exactly.
So Steven's just out here saving marriages is what we're really talking about in a number of different ways. Where do you see things going? Have you had people start talking to you about Tony Robbins' new book, The Life Force, and like what's coming out? Has that been brought up yet or no?
I haven't. No, I know you mentioned something about it. I'm reading a couple books right now, so as soon as I'm done with those, I'll definitely pick it up.
Where do you see the industry going over the course of the next, few years? Like, where are things trending?
Honestly, I think that the more people that become aware of it, the more people that are on it, that start talking about it and say, oh my gosh, my clarity that was one of the things also as far as thyroid too, because you get foggy thinking with the thyroid aspect of low thyroid. So, I mean, once people get on it and they get, and everything's balanced, they become your biggest advocates. And so they typically tell everybody. Now, the women are better about it as opposed to men, because men don't want to, they don't want to go to the gym and be like,
because there's still the stigma,
there's that stigma,
like,
absolutely.
I'm on testosterone. They're like, oh, you juicing?
Yeah.
You're trying to do, and it's like,
yeah,
no, like I'm just trying to be normal, for crying out loud.
And it's always going to, and I don't know if we'll ever get over that actual stigma, as far as the male aspect of it is concerned. But the way that a lot of the protocols that we do, standard for males is about 200 milligrams of injectable testosterone a week. Our protocol is 120 megs, and we're still able to facilitate that patient getting to the levels that they need to get to. So it doesn't always, P for plenty isn't always best, and if you can utilize less medication and achieve the same objective, that's huge, because what that does is that allows for long-term, it allows for you to, it's sustainable. It's something that's sustainable.
Well, because your goal isn't to go from like the skinny guy on the beach to the muscle head. It's just to it's not this crazy transformation. It's just, hey, we want to take where you're at and optimize things to a place where you're better than you are right now, and you're a better version of yourself, right? Because
Absolutely.
your body, for whatever reason, and oftentimes it's simply because of age, our body's just not doing what it was, right? And I think it's hilarious that people will still kind of argue against that. And it's like, look, Joe and Sally, like, there's a reason that you don't look like you did when you were in your early 20s. Something's different, right?
Yeah.
Like, why not try and put things back the way they were? No, that's not natural. Okay, well, natural, 100 years ago was you dying at 45. So shut up. You know what I mean? Like, we're in a different world.
And my favorite thing is whenever, we'll have a female that'll, go to the OBGYN and they'll talk to him and they'll say, doc, I'm feeling this. This is what I'm feeling and everything, blah, blah, blah. And one of the most common responses that I've heard is, well, that's just part of aging. Well, it doesn't have to be anymore. And that's where, we have peak performance have come in to say, you know what, you don't have to be that status quo. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be this way. There are ways of making everybody feel better in a healthy way.
Well, and I've had, because I've done some of the stuff and I end up talking with people about it. I had a conversation with a female, not too long ago, that was kind of sharing that, like, she had done the blood work and gone in and was on a protocol. And then her OBGYN was like, well, I don't get it. Or I don't like, and well, why are you on this? And she was taking something for the anxiety and everything else. And it made a tremendous difference. And then the OBGYN's like, well, why, you don't need this. And then, you should go see a doctor. And she was like, but I did, and that didn't work. And then I went to a therapist, but this has leveled me out. I'm totally different. Like, I'm good. I feel different. My day is better. And the other doctor's like arguing with her. And she's like, well, for crying out loud, like, I feel good. Why are you arguing with me about it?
Right.
There was no negative effects, but so it feels like, though, that things are getting a bit more mainstream and people are talking about it in a positive way a bit more.
Right. So, and it is, it's a personal choice, and I highly recommend everybody, research it, find out if it's something for them. But at the same time, just know that a lot of your Western med docs are not going to be understanding of it unless they have gotten, more so outside training from seminars, continuing education courses, things that would bring them up to speed and educate them as far as the industry is concerned.
So you've got Western medicine that's like that. And then on the other side, you've got like naturopath and homeopathy. Do you feel like this is more accepted by one than the other, or is this kind of like right in the middle?
Okay. So one of my very best friends from high school she's an OBGYN, and I had a conversation with her about it. And with the reason that, they want to, their biggest concern with Western medicine is the litigious factor. So they want to be able to have.
She's on the homeopathic side, you're saying, or?
No, she's an OBGYN. She's a gynecologist. Yeah, she's an MD. And she and I get in a lot of discussions in regards to hormones and things. And she said, yes, she sees the benefit of them, but as far as her practice is concerned, she is fearful of being sued if something were to go wrong. Well, I mean, doctors' malpractice insurance is so expensive anymore. It's like they get sued at the drop of a hat. So my thing is, like you were talking about your other doctor, one of the things you have to look at is if you're a female and your doctor doesn't agree with how you feel, one, there's a few things that you need to question. One, how old is that doctor? Are they in their, late 20s? Have they ever experienced this before? Are they a male or a female? If they're an older male and he's telling you that you don't need this, and this is, that is something that you need to question. So that's why, everything has to be researched properly. And you've got to be your biggest patient advocate as well. So, find out what's going to work for you, see if it's something that you're ready for, and then, move forward based off of, an educated decision.
Yeah. So there was a question in there about selenium.
Uh-huh.
What do you know about selenium? What do you think?
I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do as far as bolstering, as far as and I'm assuming she's asking that as far as the thyroid is concerned. Selenium, iodine. Most people, we've moved toward a healthier lifestyle, healthier diet, so we have sea salt all the time. The problem that we incur with that is nobody's using the iodized salt anymore. They're using the sea salt. Well, our body needs iodine, and that helps as far as our thyroid function is concerned. Selenium is great as well. So whenever I say, and one of the best things for it is 4 ounces of cranberry juice every morning really helps to bolster the thyroid as well. Not the cocktail, not the stuff that tastes good, the stuff that's incredibly bitter, but 4 ounces in the morning, that can really do wonders as far as, really helping to bolster that thyroid again, to kind of get things back in line. They say you can eat broccoli to increase your testosterone. Now, if your testosterone's in the 200 levels, you can eat as much broccoli as you want. You're not going to bring it up to a normal level. So, so those are just kind of the things. But as far as selenium, yeah, I think it's great, but we need to make sure that we're not overdoing one specific supplement. A lot of times people get tired. And so I will see when we get their labs back, I'll see their B12 in the 2000 range. Well, they're doing that because they've been told that B12 is going to give them energy, which it does. But at the same time, why do you have to have that much B12 to keep you energized? What else is going on? Let's take a look and see where we're standing.
What's keeping your energy down?
Right.
So okay, I'm going to drop the link in there one more time, and guys, I'll put it in the Skype later. But so if someone, again, Steve and I are not medical professionals. Stephen works with Peak Performax. They have medical professionals on staff. So if whether it's with Peak or with someone else, like if someone's deciding, hey, I want to take a look at this, what's a typical process look like for somebody if they want to go that route? Like, all right, I book a consultation. And does it start there? I mean, how does that normally work?
The easiest way to go about it, and I'll just run you through the process, is they'll typically contact, they'll either email or they'll call in. We will get their information. They will get a phone call either from me or somebody else, somebody else. And then the 3 things that we will need is their full name, their email address, and their cell phone number. At that point, we will go ahead and send them a link to our portal. They'll complete all of our disclosures, HIPAA requirements, and everything. And then at that point, we'll let them know that we're going to go ahead and do some lab work. It's much easier to go with the cash pay because it's just with the insurance, you run into paying a lot more than what the cash pay is. Cash pay for our labs are $249, and that includes your consult with my medical director. So once you've completed your paperwork,
but it's so much more complete. Like the lab work, what you get at that amount is totally different than like what
100%. You'll be able to take this back to your you'll be able to take it to your primary, and it'll be a lot more comprehensive than what they would get. And so then once the lab work comes back, it usually we send you to a lab core. It usually takes about 72 to 96 hours to come back. Once that comes back, it's an automatic catalyst for one of the other girls in my organization to go ahead and schedule up the video consult with my medical director. So at that point, those things, all those moving pieces will be coordinated. They'll go through your labs with you. And then at that point, you'll either get a phone call from me or somebody else to go over what one of our practitioners has recommended. And we'll go ahead, get an order placed, and meds are shipped directly to your doorstep, unless you live in Canada or in the UK.
Yeah, so you can do it in the UK and Canada. Like they've got others. It's just it wouldn't be with Peak, and so
right.
Like I know Stephen, I've worked with Peak, so that's why I'm putting them out there. I'm not getting paid for it. Like if you want to, great. If not, that's your choice, guys. Find someone that you're comfortable with, and that's the key to all of it. And the key with everything that we talk about here is, I'm not trying to push you in any one direction, other than optimizing yourself. And so, like he said, be your own biggest advocate. No one's going to fight harder for you than you. Don't simply accept, listen to what they say, but be willing to go look for a second opinion, talk to people, think about what, like he was saying, a lot of doctors are just like, oh, it's part of the process now. Oh, your joints they are forever going to suck. Well, no, like my back, a few years ago was horrible. It's better now than it's ever been because of the steps that I took with the right doctors and help and everything else. Like, be your own biggest advocate, find, the best platform for you. And, if it's with Peak and Stephen, then that's great. Guys, do we have any other questions for Stephen here before we wrap up? I appreciate you being on. I don't even think I told you it'd be a full hour, so I appreciate you.
I'm good. No worries.
Yes, I do have a question for Steve.
Go for it, Joseph.
That's Joseph. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Joseph.
Yeah, it's been very, very interesting listening to you.
Thank you.
And I want to also know whether the cost of the lab, the $249, also includes the cost of the medication.
No, that's just the cost of the labs, and the cost of the medication, depending. So average cost of the medication for a male for hormone replacement therapy is going to run between $400 to $450, and that is going to be a 17.5-week protocol. So a little over 4.5 months worth of medication and protocol for between $400 and $455.
And that's everybody's going to be different, guys. And that's something to remember. Like, you can't say, here's the price, because it's going to depend on you. And there's all sorts of averages industry wide. I've seen much, much more expensive. And like you're saying, like, you can go look for, well, I found this for $25. Well, okay. Did the doctor prescribe it? Is it the same thing? And does it have those disclaimers like he's talked about? This way you're getting it from a legal pharmacy in the US, shipped directly to you. You're not paying extra doctor's visits. Like a lot of doctors, every time you go in, you're paying extra there. Right. So it is a bit different, so just be how much it depends is the only answer that's viable. Right. So
that's just a standard average as far as, just for,
well, and that's
an average male hormone replacement.
So like if you look at that, so $1,200 for a year, $1,200 to what, $1,300-$1,400 or whatever as an average, $100 a month. For me personally, I'm sleeping better. I'm more active. My anxiety levels are down. My head is clearer. That's worth it for me. I got rid of some of the supplements that I was taking, so that took care of some of that cost. And I don't have to go to the store to get stuff. And it's somewhere that I know the quality is there. So there's ease and everything else. So like, it just, it depends on how you want to approach it. So any other questions? Forrest is saying,
yes,
Nancy says, thanks, Stephen and Andrew. It's been wonderful. Forrest saying he and his wife enjoyed it. Very informative. Scott saying, thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? Catalina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I forgot my question trying to get the audio on. Oh, Stephen.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you the manufacturer of your own product?
Okay, so the answer to that question is no. All of our medications will come through a compounding pharmacy. Those compounding pharmacies are going to they're audited and inspected by the FDA, DEA every year to make sure everything is 100% way that it needs to be. They send out testing for the medication to test for strength, sterility, endotoxins, so that you know exactly what you're getting. So it's nothing that I'm manufacturing. This is something that is being made specifically for each patient through a compounding pharmacy. So I am not the manufacturer of that, if that makes it.
Yes, thank you for an excellent explanation and presentation today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stephen doesn't have the garage full of like beakers and bottles and
Yes,
all sorts of other stuff. So All right, guys,
Andrew.
we're at an hour. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for your participation and questions. The recording will be up probably first thing in the morning. Stephen will hook up, but everybody, round of applause for Stephen, sir. Stephen Schmidt, Peak Performax. If you guys are interested, I'll drop the link. And then if any of you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I can get you in touch with Stephen there. So thank you, sir.
Perfect.
Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, take care. Tomorrow, real quick, guys, tomorrow Melissa's coming on. Neurofeedback therapy, brain train centers. Make sure that you're here. We're going to dive a little deeper into that. And I'm going to ask her a little bit about the hormone side of the brain as well and how it affects there and tie everything in. So make sure you guys.
Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet.
just go forward.
Thank you.
What do you
Make
need
it a
to
great day.
How do you stand out?
So what you need to do is be that person that's different and it's bigger than you think.
Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you are.